Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I know it's been a few weeks. I'm sorry. I've gotten a bunch of messages from people asking where I am and if I'm okay and everything. And thank you so much for that. It's so sweet. And it makes me feel very loved. So thank you. No, I've just been really, really busy. I've been trying to keep up on, the new information and the updates that have been coming out, but I just haven't been able to sit down and make videos. I've been dealing with some real life stuff. And anyway, so it's just taken me a minute to get back to it. But I'm back now and I'm happy to be back. And we have actually gotten finally some dates for Dead City and some new stuff that's come out, which I think most of that, I mean, I'm not going to, we're just going to go through the comments and the asks because I think most of it is in there. And if there's anything we missed after that, I'll go through it. But let's just jump in. So some of these are from, as you can see, a few weeks ago. So I'm going to go through them and they're from the last few videos that I did. So went back and rewatched the lead up to the look at the flowers scene and was reminded that baby Judith was there. Apparently, my brain blocked out that Judith was next on Lizzie's chopping block before Carol pointed out that Elle couldn't walk yet. While I agree it looks much more likely that we get a return on Dead City first, at least an Emily Kinney one, LOL, and according to IMDb, Kaylee Fleming hasn't been in anything since 2024. There is conveniently another Team Family kiddo with an instantly recognizable Green family name in Manhattan at the moment. Interesting. Yeah, we're getting some really interesting things about Dead City, so that's kind of exciting. And yeah, I hope we see more of Judith because I mean I think everybody wants that because Beth took care of her as a baby. We do want to see that reunion, and I remember the reunion between Judith and Maggie, and even that was really pretty cool, so naturally, I mean, to me, that is very encouraging that they did this little reunion between Judith and Maggie, which was back in season, it was 11, right? Because they hadn't seen each other in so long, and Judith was so much more grown up by then. But to me, that's like a foreshadow of the Beth Judith reunion, so I'm really excited about that. So thank you for that tip. All right, I really enjoyed this. It finally makes sense if the weird connection between Daryl, Beth, and Carol Tyrese and the girls after the fall of the prison. Yep. Let's see. Always look forward to them. Amazing deep dive and just more proof that Beth is on the way. Thank you. Now I regret that I didn't watch the episode. I knew the little girls will die and refused to watch it, but that dialogue was so Beth. She knew that people looked down on her, but she also knew that she is strong and stood by her ideals. Well, Leslie wasn't entirely wrong, just not accurate. I'm thankful for this deep dive. Stay healthy. Thank you. I'm glad you guys are liking it. I really enjoyed doing the deep dives, and I'll probably do more of them. The still and alone videos that were requested are still coming. With those, I think they'll be a little bit different because it's not, I mean, I'll talk about the psychology where I can, but the psychology of Beth and Daryl has really been beaten to death in our fandom. So I don't know that I'll have a whole lot that's new to say there, but I will go through everything I kind of think about and the way the symbols go together and any psychology that is relevant, obviously I will. But it was really fun to do deep dives on other characters and their arcs that are kind of surrounding Beth and Daryl because most of us don't do that. And even I hadn't really done this to this extent before. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it because I really had fun doing it and it was really, really enlightening. Okay. So let's see, got through a few of these. Here's my hope for what the scene sneak peeks in Dead City Season 3 mean. They seemingly show Maggie, Negan, and Beth in a New York setting that is very obviously non-apocalyptic. Some people said they thought it might be flashbacks, but the girls look older and Negan is there, so that's out. Secondly, it could be a fun what-if alternative timeline type scenario, which is certainly possible. My personal opinion, though, I'm hoping that the scenes are basically a premonition of sorts. Think about it. We've got Maggie, Negan, and New York in the dream, which are all factors at play in the current storyline. Granted, in the dream, it is non-apocalyptic, but I think that's just Maggie's brain making her surroundings more pleasant to escape the hellish reality that has been her daily life since the outbreak. Beth is the main outlier in the dreams, and I think there is a reason for that. Often when people have premonition dreams, it is their subconscious brains or their supernatural trying to tell them something or to prepare them for something. In short, I think Maggie meets Beth and hugs in the dream because some force is trying to tell her she's about to be reunited with the sister she long thought dead in New York. As for Beth herself, I think there is a good chance she will be amnesiac and have little to no memory of her past life. This, of course, comes from her head wound, and I think it could either be temporary or permanent. My hope is that her memory of Maggie and the others is restored as she interacts with her and Negan more. It would be quite sad if she never recovers her memory of her dad, sister, brother, Rick, and of course Daryl. By the way, I think it's interesting that Daryl got amnesia too when he went to France. Now, sadly, I think you're right about it being realistic that Beth has been with someone else since her death, since it was so long ago. She would likely be 35 by the time of Dead City. So it's likely she has been in a long-term relationship or even married before and possibly even has a kid or two that would be Herschel's cousin. But it's very interesting that her past love life shows she is quite similar to Daryl in being unlucky. She lost both Billy and Zach early in the outbreak, and her and Daryl lost each other twice just when they started to get close. And so far, Daryl has lost relationships with Connie, Leah, and recently Isabel. If she's still alive, Beth may need her own happy ending just as much as Daryl. Oh, that's really sweet. The way you put that, I like that. If it's found she has had a relationship or marriage since her days with Daryl and the others, I'm betting a few possible things will play out. Either her lover or husband will die by the end of Dead City, or has already died by the time she meets Maggie, or he will end up being abusive in some way and Beth will clearly be better off leaving him in the end. My dream scenario would be her leaving New York with Maggie and Negan at the end of Dead City and being reunited with Daryl and others at the end at Alexandria or the Commonwealth. Beth would still be well within the age of having children if she did end up reuniting, falling in love, and getting married to Daryl in the rumored season 12 of The Walking Dead. It would be an awesome way to end the series and give Daryl, Beth, Maggie, Rick, etc. a happy ending by having one huge reunion. Also, Daryl is an awesome guy, and he also wouldn't have any problems with being a stepdad if it turns out Beth has any other children. In fact, her marriage to Daryl would be an interesting parallel to Beth's and her dad, Herschel's. Remember, Herschel originally married Maggie's mom, Josephine, and then she died, leaving him a widower. Then he later married Beth and Sean's mom, Annette. And interestingly, there seemed to be a similar age gap between Herschel and his second wife, to Beth and Daryl. Interesting to see all these little symbols and parallels, especially between Beth and Daryl. Yeah, thank you. Like, that was really fun to read. So thanks for commenting that. And I don't think I have a lot to add. I mean, that all sounds fabulous. I agree about, we don't know how it will play out, all the details, but I agree with most of what you've said here. I do think that France is going to come into Dead City in some way because they did have that as a filming location. And then we have the fact that the premiere is happening on the French Riviera, which is kind of a strange place for it to be happening. You had Daryl Dixon filming there, and they're very international right now. So, maybe not terribly strange, but at the same time, me and my fellow theorists were talking about that, and it almost feels like maybe Dead City might be actually shooting in France. We don't know that. We haven't been told that, but we know that it was one of the locations, and maybe that's why they're doing the premiere there, is because the actors are already there anyways, rather than having to fly them all home to the States and then fly them back to finish filming. It was just easier to do it over there somewhere, which is just conjecture on my part. But I do think that France as a location is going to show up in Dead City somewhere. And it's like, well, how would that work? And I just can't help but wonder if we're going to get more information about the ship that Daryl ended up on and what they're doing, because they're clearly like kidnapping people and taking them over to Europe. So maybe this happens with Maggie and Negan and Beth in some way, and so then they'll end up over there, and of course, just conjecture, me thinking about how it could work. But anyway, this was a really fun one to read, so thank you. And I agree. I think that we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out. But because of Zach, as I said before, I do think that she will either be in a relationship or have had one in the past. And I agree, either the person's going to get killed off pretty quickly. It's going to be obvious that even, it's either going to be that it was a good relationship, but it wasn't her soulmate relationship, even if it was like one that was very respectful and a pretty good, because that's how Zach was. He was a nice guy. Or like you said, it could be that it's not a good relationship. It's an abusive relationship. And that wouldn't parallel to Zach as much, but that's one of those details that they don't necessarily have to parallel. The parallel may be in the relationship, not in the type of relationship it is. So I'm just excited to see how it all plays out. And I do like, what you said about, what it could be in Maggie's AU. I 100% do think that it is, you're talking about a premonition for Maggie, the character, and yeah, 100%. But in terms of the writing and the show, it's also a foreshadow. It is 100,000% a foreshadow. So either way, that really works. And I'm very curious to know how this AU comes about. Like, is it just Maggie having a dream when she's asleep? Or does she, hit her head? Or does she get hurt somehow? Or is she drugged somehow? Like, I'm really curious to see how this, what's happening that she has this, whatever it is, hallucination, dream, vision, whatever you want to call it. So mostly I'm just here for it, and I can't wait for it to get here and play out so that we can see what happens. So anyway, yes, thank you for that. Very wonderful headcanon. I think I read this one before about the album, so I'm going to skip that one. Alrighty. Dead City is now officially confirmed. Yes, for the summer. This is when there was still no date. I believe we have a date now. but should be July, most likely, as Interview with the Vampire is scheduled in June, I believe. So we've got Dead City before Daryl Dixon, and it's still rumor, but a strong one. DD is going to air immediately after Dead City finishes, 1 week in between. That says to me that the plots are going to be intertwined. And there's so much pointing to Dead City filming in France this summer. Thank you. What I already said, all this is pointing to something, and we are the only ones that know where. Haha. So we've got Dead City, at the very least, introducing Beth back to the audience again, AU/dream sequence or not. That's functionally what that does. And then we get, hopefully, actual Beth back by the end of Daryl Dixon season 4. I am with you. The fact that JDM, Lauren, Emily, and Seth Hoffman are all going to be in France around the same time is really super interesting. Yes. And we need to talk a little bit. Well, I'll come back to that. Totally. And Lauren never does these conventions, and we still have the production website from way back last year inexplicably listing Paris as a production site for Dead City. So yeah, there's something going on there for sure. Well, the thing is that Daryl Dixon takes place in about 2023, while Dead City is 2027, 28. So in other words, Daryl is in France several years before Negan and Maggie go to New York. So if something happened with Beth and Daryl Dixon season 4, shouldn't Maggie have heard about it by now? Unless, of course, they make it where Maggie hasn't talked to Daryl in several years, but I doubt that will be the case. It would have made a lot more sense if Daryl Dixon aired before Dead City, and maybe there was a small tease, like Daryl found a voice recording or a diary entry from Beth, and didn't realize it was her, but the audience did. And then years later, Maggie has dreams about Beth and then actually runs into her in New York. Yeah, it looks like the answer here is probably what I would say here. The timeline isn't confirmed, though. Scott Gimple addressed it and basically said the timeline is broken and that he didn't want to nail either show down to a specific timeline. I'm not sure where people keep getting the info about what year Dead City is in. It seems to be in everyone's assumption based on how old Herschel looks, I think, but the overall creator of the universe has said that's not reliable. But for argument's sake, I do think it's very realistic that Maggie and Daryl wouldn't have spoken in years. It's not like there's a telephone to just pick up. Unless you were living in the same place, you could easily go years without talking to someone. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what the timeline will be. Maybe they'll jump a few years somewhere, but yeah, that would be my response too, that Scott Gimple said none of the timelines that the fans are passing around are necessarily accurate. He didn't say like they're all 100% wrong, but he's not confirming any of them. So like bits and pieces of them may be right. And you guys, I'm just not that worried about the timeline. Like I said, maybe they'll jump a few years. Maybe they'll explain the timeline a different way. Maybe it's just that Herschel looks a lot older than he actually is. The actor playing him is older than Herschel is meant to be in the show. I don't know, but I'm not worried about it because they'll explain it somehow. So I just don't sit around worrying about, oh, this is the wrong year and that couldn't happen. I mean, whatever they want to have happen, whatever they have planned to have happen, it's already in the works. It's already unfolding, so they have a way to put it together and explain it. So I'm not worried about that. I'll just wait till they tell me what the timeline is. But it's not something that I sit around worrying. I was definitely watching Talking Dead back then, but I completely forgot that Greg Nicotero had specifically also reminded people about the 17 days. Between that and Rick's, it's been 3 weeks since Atlanta. I know you lost something back there. They sure didn't want us to forget that, 100%. And it was such I'm kind of, record on repeat at this point. But it was it's like an on the nose answer. It was like he had that answer prepared and they made sure that Chris asked him that question. So he was like, okay, so, beginning of episode 9, which is what happened and what's going on. How long has it been since the end of Coda? 17 days. I mean, he had it. It was there. They knew exactly how long it was been. It wasn't like, I don't know. Let's see. Well, probably a week or two. No, they knew it was 17 days. Okay. And that is not the case unless it is very, very detailed and planned. So yes, very important. Crispy Atlanta. Oh, damn. If that's implying that it did burn, then the Grady Atlanta might fit the pattern of every time Team Family leaves a home behind, it is destroyed after all. And yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, people were saying that. They never leave a place intact. Like that's a big thing that the fandom talked about. But the point is maybe they didn't. And that's just more that we haven't seen yet. So 100%. Also, Melissa McBride just had an interview in People magazine from the AMC upfronts that took place this past week where she was asked what her plans are after Daryl Dixon season 4, and her replies that she's going to be stepping back and taking time for herself. Heavily implied that Carol might not be continuing on in whatever is coming next. Seems to support the speculation for many of us that Carol is not going to be leaving Spain. Yeah, could be. I mean, I don't think that she's necessarily done in the TWD universe, but yeah, it does seem like she's going to be taking some time. And, good for her. Like, she deserves to rest a little bit. But I don't know. I think that she'll still be back. And I don't know. I'm still about 50% on whether she leaves Spain or not, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, either she will or she won't, but I do think that we'll see her down the line somewhere. So, yeah, we'll just have to kind of see how it goes and what happens. I think I'll call it there for this video, and in the next one, I will get to all of the asks. So I'll see you soon. Thanks for being here with me, guys.